Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Siva gedola, lion lion besimcha. Siva gedola, lion lion besimcha. Siva gedola, lion lion besimcha. Siva gedola, lion besimcha. Siva gedola, lion 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 besimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. 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 Siva gedola, lion besimcha. Siva gedola, lion lion besimcha. Siva gedola, lion lion besimcha. Siva gedola, lion besimcha. Someone smile. Be the reason someone smile. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles.
Birthday is maybe one of the best kept secrets. Your birthday. Your journey on this earth begins on your birthday. If you could understand that point of departure, maybe everything else would be put into context. The day you were born is the day when heaven and the cosmos determined that the world cannot exist without you. When you came to this world, first time when you were born, is when the world was given a gift called you. It's not just you remembering you were born 10, 20, 30 years ago, whatever one's age is, but actually that moment goes back to the point in time when everything is renewed. All that energy, all the cosmos that made the decision that you should be here on earth, they all renew your contract. You are a divine entity in this world that has something to contribute that you and only you can contribute. That's a birthday, period.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla raba emunatecha.
Ben kodesh Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday from sheer soul. Happy birthday to you.
Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Elli. It is Sunday, the 23rd day of July, the 5th day of 5783, the year of Hakhel. The Torah portion is Vaeschanan, HaYom Yom Rishon, the Shabbos first day, counting up towards Shabbos. We're learning the first Aliyah. Good morning, how are you? Good Tvach Shavua Tov, a good week. Yeah, it's my birthday today. Yesterday, Shabbat, was my Hebrew birthday, and today is my English calendar birthday. Didn't quite mesh, when you're only 20. Every 19 years, they generally come out on the same day, but not always. So, there's hope for all of us yet. All right. I don't know what that meant. What do you mean? I have no idea. Okay. Yeah. All right, so let's get started. Men and boys, please take your two front and let us make a bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
All right, excellent. And then we just got to take 1 minute over here. Harini Meka Al Divrei Torah, everyone together. Hold on. It's just being a drip slow. A drippy drop slow. By the way, a good tavach, Shavua Tov, a good week. Thank you for watching again. Starting another week with us here at Breakfast with Elli. All right, I think we are ready to go for Al Divrei Torah. Let's try it once more.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Harini Mekabel. Such a pain when it does that to me.
Harini mikabel alay mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
Right, Torah Tziva.
Ay Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
Time to give tzedakah.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else to keep. Yeah, I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else in need.
Like I said, Shabbos was my Hebrew birthday, so we gave a lot of tzedakah before Shabbos, and we give it today too because it's my English birthday. We're so lucky to get 2 birthdays. I know, right? All right, time to say the Shema. Take your right hand, put it over your eyes, please.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
All right. And that has earned us breakfast.
Hakhel Biederman, Biederman.
All right, fantastic. I have, guess what? Coffee and yogurt. That's right. Messy cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihiyah b'dvaroi.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, it's only you on which I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or 2 in the evening too. For me, it's the only way. Yeah.
All right. Today in Jewish history. Today is the yahrzeit of the Ari. In 1572, Rabbi Yitzchak Lurie Ashkenazi, known as the Ari HaKodesh, the Holy Lion, passed away on this day in the year 5332 from creation. Born in Jerusalem in 1573, he spent many years secluded in study near Cairo, Egypt. In 1570, he settled in Tzfas, where he lived for 2 years until his passing at age 38. I know. During that brief period, the Ari revolutionized the study of Kabbalah and came to be universally regarded as one of the most important figures in Jewish mysticism. It was he who proclaimed, "In these times we are allowed and duty-bound to reveal this wisdom," opening the door to the integration of the teachings of the Kabbalah, until then the province of a few selected in each generation, into mainstream Judaism. Undisputably, the greatest practitioner and expounder of the Kabbalah, he authored the Zohar and founded a new school in Kabbalistic thought known as the system of the Ari. Rabbi Yitzchak Luria ben Shlomo Ashkenazi, whose father was related to the Marshal, was born in the old city of Jerusalem in 1534 in what is now the old Yishuv Court Museum. Rabbi Luria is commonly known as the Ari, which is an acrostic standing for Elokai Rabbi Yitzchak, the godly Rabbi Yitzchak. Now, Ari is also the word for lion, as we said. No other master or sage ever had this extra letter of Aleph, an abbreviation for God, prefixed to his name. This was a sign in the esteem in which his contemporaries held him. Now, later generations, fearful that this appellation might be misunderstood, explained the Aleph as standing for Ashkenazi. Alternatively, some explain that the Aleph stands for Adonenu, our master. To this day, among Kabbalists, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria is referred to as Rabbeinu Ha'ari, our teacher, the Ari HaKodesh, the Holy Ari, or the Ari Zal, the Ari of blessed memory. On Fridays, after the middle of the day, the Ari used to go with his students, and once he asked them if they wanted to go to Jerusalem, which was far from Tzfas. The students said they wanted to go, but some said they needed to go ask their wives' permission. When the Ari heard that, he said they missed the opportunity for bringing Mashiach right that moment. Today is also the yahrzeit of Rabbi Chaim Ozer Grodzinski, who was the rabbi of the community of Vilna for over 50 years, a distinguished scholar who authored Achiezer, a collection of halachic responsa. He worked with the 5th and 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe's on many projects to ease the plight of Russian Jewry. Aha. Very cool. All right, we are in the middle of the 9 days. During the 9 days, from the 1st to the 9th of the month, we mourn the destruction of the holy temples in Jerusalem. Temples, both. We abstain from meat and wine, music, haircutting, bathing for pleasure, and other joyous and dangerous activities. The particular mourning customs vary from community to community, so consult your local Orthodox rabbi for the customs in your community should you be unsure of them. Citing the verse, Zion b'mishpat tipadeh, that Zion will be redeemed with mishpat, which is Torah, v'shaveh b'tzedakah, and its returnees with charity. The Rebbe encouraged us to increase in our study of Torah and the doing of mitzvahs, and particularly to learn about the Holy Temple and to give tzedakah. Okay? Now, the 9th of Av is a more stringent fast day than the 17th of Tammuz. Like Yom Kippur, it begins at sunset and goes for 25 hours. Besides fasting, we abstain from additional pleasures: washing, applying lotions or creams, wearing leather shoes, marital relations, sitting on the floor or on low stools until midday. We will gather in the synagogue to read the Book of Lamentations, known as Eicha, and we'll learn more about the 9 days later on in this particular broadcast. Again, the fast will be Wednesday night and Thursday this week. All right. After Napoleon conquered the city of Acre in northern Israel, he walked through the streets of the ancient seaport. Suddenly, his attention was caught by a group of people bitterly wailing and crying. Incensed at the thought that perhaps they were mourning because of his conquest, he sent agents to investigate. His agents came back and told him it was a group of Jews who were mourning. Although their mourning was prompted by a conquest, it was not Napoleon's victory that they were lamenting. It was the night of Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, and they were mourning the conquest of Jerusalem and the destruction of the Holy Temple that had taken place more than 1,750 years before. Napoleon was moved, and he is reported to have exclaimed, "Any nation whose sense of history is so strong as to remember, and to remember to the point of actual tears, what took place almost 1,800 years previously, will live to see that history become present again." So take a page from Napoleon's book. Acknowledge the past. Do something constructive to bring the redemption closer. Yeah, I like that. And now HaYom Yom for today. Hey, the 5th day of Av. As soon as my computer decides it wants to do this. Gotta love technology, right? When it works.
Once upon a time, many Jewish people believed that the best way to get close to Hashem is by denying yourself physical pleasure. So a super large, spacious home or a gourmet meal, these are things that someone who wants to be really close to Hashem should shun. But the Baal Shem Tov had an altogether different take on the matter. The founder of the Hasidic movement taught that in the beautiful home that you wish to build for yourself, or in the gourmet meal that you are about to sit down to, there is an element of good and an element of evil. If you experience physical pleasure, even kosher pleasure, but that pleasure is devoid of any higher or meaningful purpose, then that's selfish and even evil. So simply stuffing your face with food because it tastes good, or building a mansion for yourself just so that you can feel pampered, these are selfish acts with no redeeming qualities. But the same physical objects also have an element of good. This is the godly life and purpose that is vested in these items. Said the Baal Shem Tov, why did Hashem create beautiful homes and delectable kosher foods? Not so we should shun them, but rather in order that these items be embraced and used in the service of Hashem. So if you build a beautiful home for the purpose of performing mitzvahs, like hosting guests and Torah classes in your home, or if you enjoy a gourmet meal in honor of Shabbos or other mitzvah celebrations, now these physical pleasures do not detract from your service of Hashem. On the contrary, the beautiful things in your life become the tools by which you serve Him.
It's the best. All right, and now a word from our sponsors.
And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidol.com.
PestProRidol.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidol.com.
Tarzane Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to tarzanegroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565 and order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at tarzanegroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's Orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications. Logos, wall hangings, Judaica. And you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
All right, patreon.com/actorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar if you would like to contribute today. And it's a good day to do it. It's my birthday. That's right. You can contribute in honor of my birthday. Wouldn't that be really, really cool? I think it would. All right. The name of our parsha, Vaeschanan, as it says in the parsha itself, Vaeschanan el Hashem be'es hahi le'mor, and I asked of Hashem please let me cross over and see the good land that's on the other side of the Jordan. Now, understandably, Moshe's request or his prayer to enter the land of Israel would have been heartfelt and persistent. In fact, the Medrash states that the Torah's use of the unusual term Vaeschanan, which has the numerical value, the gematria, of 515, alludes to the fact that Moshe made this petition no fewer than 515 times. Eventually, however, Moshe says, Hashem became angry with me and did not listen to me and said, enough of your requests. Do not speak to me anymore about this matter. Now, everything in the Torah must convey a practical lesson for our lives. But this account seems merely to convey a historical event. What does it mean for us? Well, the common perception of this incident is that Moshe's prayers were not accepted by Hashem, and that when Hashem became angry, Moshe stopped asking. However, we have to understand that Moshe was not only praying for himself, but for the entire Jewish nation. Had he been the one to lead them into the land, it would have immediately ushered in the Messianic age for all time. So Moshe could have followed the Talmudic directive, whatever the master of the house tells you, you must do, except when he tells you to leave. That's found in the Talmud in the chapter Pesachim. When Hashem, the true master, told Moshe to stop praying, in other words, to abandon the request for Mashiach and to leave God's presence, he was not required to follow the instructions of his host according to Talmudic law. So, despite the fact that Moshe was angering Hashem with his persistent prayers, it's highly unlikely that Moshe actually stopped asking Hashem about this after Hashem said, don't speak to me anymore about this matter, because Moshe wasn't praying for himself, but on behalf of the Jewish people, the generation that he took out of Egypt. And as a true leader and lover of Israel and the Jewish people, Moshe would surely have been willing to put himself at risk by angering Hashem to make every possible effort on behalf of his people. And that, the Rebbe tells us, is the lesson to us. To continue to pray for Mashiach again and again and again and again until we are finally answered. Hashem made us a promise. Okay? That's all there is to it. In the first Aliyah, Moshe recounts how he pleaded with Hashem to allow him to enter into Israel. Hashem refused the request, but instructed Moshe to climb a mountain from where he could see the promised land. Moshe enjoins the people to follow Hashem's law and never to add or detract from it. He uses the Baal Peor incident to indicate and demonstrate that those who remained faithful to Hashem thrived and survived, which is very, very important. All right, let us go to Shnayim Yomi for the day.
Hi, everybody. Rabbi Yaakov Moskowitz here, and I'm so honored to be back with Shnayim Yomi for Parshas Vaeschanan. Parshas Vaeschanan, Rishon. Now, the Parsha starts off by telling us that Moshe Rabbeinu was pleading with HaKadosh Baruch Hu to rescind the gzeira of him not being allowed to go into Eretz Yisrael and to really allow me, Moshe Rabbeinu, to go into Eretz Yisrael. And he was asking Hashem, Rashi says this was a gift. He's saying, give me this for free. Vaeschanan el Hashem, just give this gift to me for free, please. I'm begging you. And what prompted Moshe Rabbeinu to ask this at this point? So Rashi tells us because we're coming off the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu had conquered the lands of Sichon and Og to give to the Shvatim of Gad and Reuven, and Moshe Rabbeinu thought that maybe that was a siman that now Hashem has rescinded this decree, and now Moshe Rabbeinu is allowed to enter Eretz Yisrael, and therefore he decided that, you know what, I could ask Hashem. And he proceeds to daven to Hashem. The Torah tells us, Ata hachi lo salaharos as avdecha. You've shown your servant your greatness, your yad chazaka, etc., etc. So therefore, please let me into the land. And Rashi points out over here that Moshe Rabbeinu really learned this from Hashem much earlier. That Hashem had said to Moshe Rabbeinu that even if there is a decree against Klal Yisrael, it's up to you to daven. And Moshe Rabbeinu assumed the same thing about himself. That therefore, even if there's a decree, I still have to daven. We learn a tremendous Musar Hakhel from this, that no matter what's going on, no matter how bleak a situation is, we've got to daven, we've got to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yet Hashem responds to Moshe Rabbeinu with the famous words, Ravlach, it is much for you. And Rashi tells us two pshatim. What does that mean? Number one, Ravlach, it's too much. Meaning people are going to look and they're going to see, oh, look how harsh this master is, that he's not letting you in. And on the other hand, people are going to see that you keep on pushing and pushing, even though there's already a gzeira, it's not appropriate. The other pshat in Ravlach that it's too much for you, Rashi says, is that there's so much in store for you, Moshe Rabbeinu. I have such a great prize awaiting for you in Gan Eden. And at this point in time, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to go up on the mountain and look out, but you're not going to cross the Yarden. You could see it, but you're not going to look. And I want you to command Yehoshua, the pasuk tells us, Chazkehu va'amtzehu, strengthen him and give him resolve. Rashi tells us that means that you should tell him about the troubles, tell him about the burdens, tell him about the difficulties that are going on within Klal Yisrael, so that he is ready for his new leadership position. After this point, Moshe Rabbeinu turns to Klal Yisrael, and Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, and he reminds them that you need to listen to the decrees of the Rabbanu Shalom. Listen to all that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has said. Do not add or do not subtract anything from the words of the Torah. And he goes on to tell them, you saw what happened with Baal Peor. You saw how the people suffered. If you want that to happen to you, so then don't follow Hashem. However, those who cling to Hashem are the ones who are going to remain alive.
All right. We don't have Rabbi Chaim or Reb Zusha today, so let's go with our 2-minute rabbi.
Jewish audio on Chabad.org.
This week's Parsha has the first paragraph of the Shema. In the opening line it says, V'ahavta es Hashem b'chol levavecha. Should love Hashem with all of your hearts. Our sages point out the apparent oddity that the word heart is written Lamed Beis Beis Chaf with 2 vases, whereas we would have assumed it would read B'chol libecha, with all of your heart, as the word heart is lev. Why does it have this duality of 2 vases, levavecha? And so our sages point out that it teaches us that we must love Hashem with both our evil inclination as well as our good inclination. Now, the innovative lesson there, that we must love Hashem with our Yetzer Hara, is quite obvious. The question becomes, why is it necessary to emphasize that we must love Hashem with our Yetzer Tov, with our good inclination? Does it not naturally love Hashem? What is the surprise, what is the innovative point that it is making by saying that we must love Hashem with our Yetzer Tov? And so Chassidus points out that in fact, we must compel our Yetzer Tov to love Hashem because it too has a natural inclination. And its inclination is to abandon this physical world and to completely subsume itself within the spiritual, to completely abandon the obligation of the daily activities and instead to race back up into God's presence in Shemayim. And so the Parsha is compelling us, it is reminding us and is demanding from us that we must force our Yetzer Tov to comply with the wishes of Hashem, to make this physical world, with all of its potential for frailty and pettiness, to make this physical world a godly place. And in this way, we love Hashem both with the passion of our animalistic intentions and tendencies, as well as redirecting our godly drive to be compelled to the fulfillment of Hashem's will.
All right. Fantastic. You know what? Let us do a Michael Kiggle today. Give me 1 second. Very fortunate to have Michael with us today. Where is it? Okay, here we go.
Ever been faced with a whale of a challenge?
A whale?
Of a challenge. A whale of a challenge.
What an extraordinary, what a serendipitous choice of words.
So the answer is yes?
Yes! Dear child, my entire being, from the core of my spine to the tips of my fingernails, is aught but the facing of a great white whale of a challenge.
Okay, that's a bit dramatic. Right, so where do you find the resources to face such a whale?
Where indeed? I look deep, fathoms deep down into my soul.
20,000 leagues under the sea of your soul?
20,000 leagues? Aye, 20, 30, 40,000.
That's where you found the wherewithal to face the whale and harpoon it and tie its lifeless floating carcass to the Pequod starboard.
Aye, yes. Except, of course, that I didn't kill the whale, and he chewed off my leg and swam off with it.
He what?
If you want to see the wound,
No, that's okay. So, you have yet to catch the whale, and what you'll need, of course, is a way to see through the enormity of the challenge.
To see that the whale is aught but a mere mackerel.
Even less. Nothing.
Nothing?
Like it says in Deuteronomy. You have been shown that the Lord alone is God. There is nothing besides him.
Nothing? No thing?
En od milvado. Nothing.
But I thought that the great admiral of the desert, Moses, was saying that there are no deities besides the Lord, that God's great outstretched arm alone wrested the Israelites from the jaws of that great white desert whale, Pharaoh.
That's a weak reading of En od milvado. In any case, the power of God's metaphorical mighty arm was already discussed in Exodus. Some commentators do say it's the same topic here, but Rashi says it refers to Matan Torah.
The giving of the Torah at Sinai.
Rashi says, when the Holy One, blessed is He, gave the Torah, He opened for Israel the 7 heavens.
And the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God.
Just as He tore open the upper regions, so did He tear open the lower regions, and they saw that He, God, is alone.
Aye, the Lord is one.
One and only. One with no two after it.
Not even a world?
En od milvado. There is nothing but He alone. Nothing.
But perhaps nothing means that nothing exists in the full sense of the word, like the medieval doctors who said that God is ens increatum, the uncreated, while everything else is created and therefore of a derivative ontological status, existent, albeit in a derivative sense.
Well, someone knows his theology. Yes, in fact, the Rambam says this.
Ah, Moses Maimonides, the seraphic rabbi.
Maimonides says this, that the world does exist in some real sense, because after all, if it didn't, then mitzvot would be meaningless.
Aye, if the world is but a ship without substance, adrift upon a grand oceanic illusion, then why bother with the commands of the great captain? But then why would Rashi insist that the world is an illusion?
Rashi is addressing the all-too-real reality of the whale.
Rashi, a man after my own heart.
For the most part, under normal circumstances, there is no need for God to tear open the fabric of reality to show himself in his full glory. The Torah tells us how to refine the world and ourselves as God-fearing, God-loving Jews.
Aye, the work of Beiror, exposing the divine goodness hidden in everything and bringing it to the fore, like the precious, melliferous ambergris taken from the guts of a sperm whale.
In certain dark times, however, we face what seems like insurmountable challenges. In such times, I may want to do God's will, but I can't. Or so it seems. I can't see how to overcome the challenge.
Aye, the cursed white Leviathan is too impressive.
But these are challenges placed there by design, by God, to elicit inner forces deep within us which transcend our ordinary spiritual resources.
The great whale was placed there by the good Lord for me to overcome.
There is nothing that can actually oppose the will of its creator. Nothing.
I see. It's nothing in God's eyes. Unimpressive. And so the total revelation of God's perspective also reveals our innermost ability to tackle the whale.
When God's very essence breaks through into reality, as it did at Sinai, there is no need to become embroiled with a personal challenge, as if to bring out its divine spark.
No. The challenge simply sinks. It capsizes like a galleon in the storm of omnipotence.
Capsized in omnipotence. That's nice. You know, Captain, you're a real poet. So yes, once you see that God is the only true reality,
that God is one, and only and alone,
then there is no need to face the challenge at all. The challenge simply drowns like a whale in the ocean.
Aye, drown!
Wait, that didn't come out right.
Drowns like a whale in the ocean, that is what I will do. I will drown the white Leviathan.
Wait, no, I don't think that's gonna work.
No? Oh, right. Whale ocean. All right. There is nothing but God. Ah! The whale shall dissolve in the ocean like an Alka-Seltzer tablet in a glass of water.
Plop, plop, fizz, fizz?
Oh, what a relief it is.
Okay, so you might need to work on your metaphors.
Hello, and welcome back to the Parsha Report. You'll have to excuse me this week. I have a little bit of a cold. Anyways, a very important part of this week's Torah portion is the mitzvah of tefillin. With us now to talk about tefillin is our very own Larry Goldstein, who just began putting on tefillin this morning. Larry?
Hi, I'm Larry Goldstein, the attorney for the Itchy Kadoozy Show and its subsidiaries, the Parsha Report and the Week in Review. And I'm also a first-time tefillin putter otter. This is my grandfather's tefillin, which I've had mounted in a plexiglass box and hung on my living room wall for years, until finally one day I figured, hey, my grandfather was sent to Siberia just for owning these puppies. Ha! And he still put them on every day. In Siberia! The least I could do was wake up a half hour earlier in the morning to put them on myself. Ha! Of course, it always helps to have a little bit of a deeper understanding of the mitzvah. So please join me while I place a call to the Tefillin Technical Support Line to find out, won't you?
Hello, you've reached Tefillin Technical Support.
Hi, my name is Larry.
If you're calling about purchasing a new pair of tefillin, press 1 now or say purchase. If you're calling to have the parchment inside of your tefillin checked to make sure that every word is intact and written correctly, press 2 now or say I'm calling to have the parchment inside of my tefillin checked to make sure that every word is intact and written correctly. If you are calling to learn more about the significance of the mitzvah of tefillin, press 3 now or say I hate these automated systems.
I hate these automated systems.
You have chosen to speak to a representative to learn more about the significance of the mitzvah of tefillin. If this is correct, say correct, or mash your palm over all of the buttons on the keypad. Thank you. Please hold for the next available representative. Your call is very important to us. Please hold while we connect you to the next available...
Good morning, sir.
Hi, I'd like to...
Sir, please hold a moment, sir. Good morning, sir. How may I help you, sir?
Well, I'd like to learn a little bit about what this mitzvah means and why it's important.
Yes, I can see that you chose that option here on the computer, sir.
So, first let's start with the basics. Tell me if I have this right. You have the parchment with verses of the Torah written on them, including the Shema and other verses that speak about the importance of remembering the words of the Torah. And you put those parchments in 2 little leather boxes with leather straps. Do I have that right so far?
Yeah, you're doing great.
Then you wrap one of them on your arm and place one on your head.
Actually, sir, I don't.
What?
I don't have arms or a head!
Excuse me, sir, but I don't feel that you're helping me very much.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down.
I am calm.
Sir, you're going to have to stop using that tone of voice with me, or I'm going to have to release your call.
What tone of voice?
Sir, this is your last chance. Now, do you want me to explain this mitzvah to you or not?
I'm sorry. Please do.
You wrap one of the boxes on your weaker arm. For most people, that's the left arm, which puts the tefillin right next to your heart. Then you place the other box on your head above your eyes. This symbolizes that both your feelings and your thoughts are wrapped up with Torah and mitzvahs.
That's beautiful. I feel so holy right now.
Okay, all right. Save the touchy-feely stuff for someone else who likes that kind of stuff. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a very important game of 3D pinball to finish. Oh, right past my flippers.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Larry Goldstein, and this has been the Parsha Report.
Very funny, guys. Very, very funny. Okay, and that brings us to waiting for my computer again. I know. Hold on. All right. And that brings us to Tehillim. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that's where we have time for. All right. All right. It says in our parsha this week, Hashem spoke these words to the entire assembly at the mountain out of the midst of fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness, with a great voice which did not cease. The Medrash describes several aspects of Hashem's great voice which did not cease at the giving of the Torah. Among them, it had no echo. How does a lack of an echo imply greatness? Well, ostensibly, the mightier a sound, the greater its reverberation. At the giving of the Torah, however, the lack of resonance was not a sign of weakness, but of strength. As a matter of fact, the lack of echo was not despite nature. It was the world's most natural reaction to the infinitely powerful sound of Hashem's voice. When sound waves encounter a barrier they can neither pierce nor penetrate, they bounce back and resonate, creating what we call an echo. Naturally, more powerful sounds resound with louder echoes. But if a sound meets no barrier, because anything it encounters either absorbs it or is powerless to prevent it from passing through, what would cause it to reverberate and echo? And that explains what took place at the giving of the Torah. When Hashem proclaimed, "I am Hashem your God who took you out of Egypt," the mighty sound pierced and penetrated all of existence. The great voice of Hashem traveled without obstruction and therefore naturally did not cease or bounce back with an echo. Every part of creation, from the spiritual to the inanimate, sensed the power and the infinite power of Hashem's voice and absorbed its internal and eternal message. Dang, that's amazing, right? All right, and now we move on to Tehillim. We'll do chapter 9. Chapter 69. And then we'll do chapter 9. When after 69.
למנצח על שושנים לדוד, הושיעני אלוהים, כי באו מים עד נופש, טבעתי בי בין מצולה, בין מעמד, פסיב ומאמצי מים, על שושנים לדוד שתפסני, דקתי וקורי ניחר גרוני, עלו עיניי, נחל אלוהי, רבו מסרוס ראשי, שונאי חינם, עצמו מצמיסי, אויבי שקר, אשר לא גזלתי, אז ראשי, יבין, אתה יודעת, שהבלתי, ואשמוסי ממך לא נכחדו, על יבושו בי, קוברך, אדוני, אלוהים, צבאות, על יקל מבי מבקשך, אלוהי ישראל, כי עליך נשאתי חרפה, וססך למח פני, מוזר, הייתי לך, ונוכרי לבני אמי, כי כינס, וסך אכלסני, וחרפוס חורפך נפלו עלי, ויבכה עצום נפשי, ותהי לחרפוס לי, ותנא לבושי שק, ויהי להם למשל, יסיך לוי, יושב שער, ונגינוס שוסי שחר, וניספי לשיא לך, אדוני, עץ רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמס אישך, הצילני אמיתית, פלט בה, נצלה משונאי, נאמה מכים מים, אל תשטפני שיבולת מים, אל תבואני מצולה, הצילני ואל תטר עלי, באר פי שונאי, ענני אדוני, כי טוב חסדך, קרוב רחמך, פני אלוהי, ואל תסתר פניך בידך, כי צר לי מהר ענני, קרבה אל נפשי גאלה, למען אויבי פדני, אתה יודעת חרפתי ובושתי, וכלימתי, נגדך כל צוררי, חרפה שברה לי גאלה, ואנושה, וקבל הנור ועין, לנחמים ולא מצאתי, פתמי וברוסי ראש, ולצמאי, ישכוני חומץ, יהי שולחנם לפניהם לכך, לשלומים למוקש, תחשכנה עיניהם מרעוס, ומאזניהם תמיד חמד, שפוך עליהם זעמך, אחרון אפך, ישיגם, תהי תירסם, נשמה, באהליהם, אל יהי יושב, יתה אשר הכיס רדף, והמחור חלליך יספרו, תנה עוון, על עוונם נשמה, אל יבואו לצדקתך, ימחו מספר חיים, ועם צדיקים אל יכסהו, אני וכואב, ישועתך אלוהים תסגרני, אהללה שם אלוהים בשיר, רגדלנו לסודה, סיתר לאדוני, מישור פר, מקרין מפריס, ראו ענבים ישמחו, ראשי אלוהים, יחי לבבכם, כי שומע אל אביונים אדוני, אסירה לא וזר, יהלו שמיים וארץ, ימים וכל רומס בם, כי אלוהים יושיע ציון, יבנה ערי יהודה, וישבו שם וירשוה, וזרע עבדיו ינחלוה, ואוהבי שמו ישכנו בה. יושיע ציון, יבנה ערי יהודה, וישבו שם וירשוה, וזרע עבדיו ינחלוה, ואוהבי שמו ישכנו בה. קדוש חיי רגלינו, ישעריים ירושלים, ירושלים הבנויה, עיר שחברה לה יחדה, שבטים, קדוש חיי רגליה, ישערה ישראל, קדוש ירושלים הבנויה, עיר כיסוס למשפט, כיסוס דוד, שלום ירושלים, ישליו הווי, יהי שלום בחילך, שלווה ברמוסייך, שמע, אחי ורעי, אדברה נא, שלום בך, למען בית אדוני אלוהינו, הבקשה טוב לך, שלום בחילך.
Might have Tanya. I might have not put in the Tanyas for today. We'll find out in just a moment. Here we go. Tanya thought for the day for the 5th day.
Tanya thoughts for the 3rd day of Menachem Av. Tanya thoughts for the 5th day of Menachem Av. How do we sustain that emunah? Make sure it's there for us when we're challenged. When distractions dangle little magic beans in front of our eyes and try and pull us away from our relationships with Hashem. Tanya directs us to davening, the daily boost of emunah, that relationship reminder. In this letter, the Alter Rebbe calls on us to rally all of our godly activities to be focused towards enriching our emunah. It's like calling on your friends and family to support you as you're going through a difficult time. When our davening, when our Torah study, and our mitzvah actions are fixated on our emunah, that emunah will be there to support us when challenges come.
Let's talk Tanya for the 3rd of Av. Today we begin the 4th section of Tanya called Igeres HaKodesh, which literally means the holy letter. Let's talk Tanya for the 5th of Av. In yesterday's Tanya, we concluded talking about davening and how davening is the time when we process the light. the light which we bring into our souls when we study the Torah. And that serves as a segue to the next part of this letter, where the Alter Rebbe is going to get very practical. Perhaps more practical than we've seen the Alter Rebbe at any point up until now in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe turns to the Chassidim and says, in the shuls, the Chabad shuls, davening has to be deliberate. Davening has to be slow, where there's no rushing through davening. The Alter Rebbe actually says that the daily davening, the morning davening, should take an hour and a half. Now, the Alter Rebbe is aware that people who are business people who have jobs, they can't necessarily spend that time davening. So the Alter Rebbe says, that's fine. They should not be the chazanim. They should not be the ones who lead the services. Instead, the ones who lead the services should be the malamdim, those who their job is to teach Torah, or people who they're sitting in the learning Torah the entire day. They should be the chazan on a daily basis, because davening has to be done deliberately. That's during the week. Shabbos, when Shabbos comes along, then the Alter Rebbe says, then there's no excuses for anyone. No one's working on Shabbos. There's no excuse for anyone to rush through davening. Everyone has to daven properly. Everyone has to daven with kavana, and everyone has to daven every single word slowly. And then business people also can be the chazan on Shabbos. In fact, the Alter Rebbe says it's a greater obligation on people who are in the world of commerce on Shabbos to devote that time. Shabbos LaHashem. Shabbos is for God. In Shulchan Aruch it says people who study Torah the whole week, Shabbos they can rest a little. People who work the whole week, it's incumbent upon them when it comes along Shabbos to devote that time to Hashem, to davening and to learning, so they can be the chazan then also. And the Alter Rebbe says, I mean business. The Alter Rebbe says, I plan on sending spies, secret spies, to all the different Chassidic communities, and they're going to be reporting to me who is davening appropriately and which people ought to be davening but are lazy. They're not spending the time and putting in the effort necessary to daven as they're supposed to. The Alter Rebbe says, such people, I receive reports about them that they're not doing their max, they're not doing their best at davening. When they come to me to hear Chassidus, when they come to the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe says they're not going to be welcomed. And he says, and by the way, from this you can infer the opposite also, which is the people who do daven properly, when they come, they're going to be welcomed with open arms. I guess the Alter Rebbe is saying, you want to come, you want to hear Chassidus. Chassidus is not about some sort of abstract, intellectual, fascinating exercise. You have to walk the walk. And if you're not putting in the work in davening, then what's the point of you coming and hearing Chassidus from me? With this, we have concluded the first chapter of Igeres HaKodesh. Tomorrow we will start and conclude, actually, the second chapter of Igeres HaKodesh, a fascinating letter that Alter Rebbe wrote after he was released from prison.
Thank you for joining Tanya in 5. Today's lesson for the 5th of Av, we conclude the first letter of Igeres HaKodesh. We spoke about previously the illumination that happens during davening, that one can meditate and contemplate upon the greatness of God, and through that intelligence can now develop a love and awe of God. And that's all based on the faith that we have, that faith is fed through the teachings of the oral Torah. So the Alter Rebbe concludes this in taking a different slant about prayer. And he says that now once more I put forth my hand a second time to an additional explanation and a twofold request. And this twofold request is to those that are near, those that are far, that they should take upon themselves the following. On all weekdays, businessmen who do not have that much time because of other obligations should not descend before the ark, in other words, to lead the congressional prayer. They should not be the Baal Tefillah, the one who's leading the service. It should be only for those people who have the time, whether they're teachers or such people that are supported by their parents, who are able to prolong the morning prayer for at least an hour and a half. the Alter Rebbe says that was back in the day. Halavai, that we should be able to do that today. And in all weekdays, it should only descend before the ark. In other words, to lead the services by either lottery or by consent of the majority. But again, those people will have the time that they could pray. And then this leader of the prayer service should congregate around them those people who also have the time to pray, whether they are supported again by their parents or their teachers, and they have the time to prolong their prayers themselves. And he says, this arrangement should not be changed. And he says, I beg and beseech you. See the importance of proper prayer, even during the weekday, when sometimes or often we're in a rush. He continues, a second request, that on the Shabbos and festivals, however, when all businessmen, they also have the time and the opportunity to prolong their prayers with a devotion of the heart and soul. In other words, that they should also be engaged in leading the service. They have the time during the week. A businessman, someone who is out in the world making a livelihood, is in a rush. But on Shabbos and holidays, they have the time. Moreover, their duty becomes even more so because, as stated in the Code of Jewish Law, that it says that 6 days a week, 6 days you shall work, and the seventh day shall be a Sabbath unto the Lord our God. What does it mean? In other words, 6 days, yes, you're involved and engaged in the world, but then on the Shabbos, it's holy unto God, unlike the festivals that are partially unto God, partially unto man. In other words, there's some of the personal pleasure that comes with holiday festivities. Shabbos is something totally unto God, which means more spiritual time, more of a time to prolong in your prayers. Therefore, these people, meaning the business people who during the week are engaged at work, as it says 6 days a week you shall work, they too shall descend before the ark, meaning leading the congregation, again according to the lottery or according to the desire of the majority of those individuals that the congregation wishes to, I guess, hear their lovely voice before prayers or the like. The Alter Rebbe then says, it is my intention to send spies secretly to the congregations to have them inform me whether these individuals who have the time are actually prolonging in prayer and meditating in their prayer, or are they being, God forbid, slothful? And the Alter Rebbe concludes as saying that there will be a punishment of those who are slothful in their prayers by an estrangement, by being pushed away by two hands from Him. And being pushed away here, he doesn't mean, God forbid, that he doesn't care for them, but they will not be able to hear the words of the living God, meaning Hasidic teachings from his mouth personally. And from the negative you can infer the positive. In other words, for those who will engage in proper prayer, you can understand the positive, that they will be will be lovingly accepted to hear his words of Torah from him personally, to hear Hasidic teachings from him. And those who shall obey, he concludes, will have a blessing of goodness that shall come unto them, and there is no good but Torah. So from here we conclude the first letter, and we see the importance of proper prayer. At least in our days, what it means is proper intent, and we should take it seriously, that we need to know that we stand before God and give our heart and soul as much as we have the time during the week and on Shabbos to add to that in our Shabbos prayers. That's Tanya and 5. Thank you for joining.
And that takes us to Pirkei Avos for today. We begin chapter 3 this week.
Shabbos prayers. That's time 5. Thank you for joining.
Welcome to another Pirkei Avot text explication. We are now starting the third chapter. So we are on the very first text in the third chapter of Pirkei Avot. And this starts off with a figure named Akavia ben Mahalalel. Now, what's interesting about Akavia ben Mahalalel is he rarely and quite infrequently appears in rabbinic texts. Apparently, he only appears a handful of times within the Mishnah. We don't really know a lot about him, aside from he lived maybe 1st, 2nd century of the Common Era. So he says, he kicks off, gaze or really study or really concentrate on 3 things, and you will not come to transgress. Okay, interesting. You will not come to a transgression. So what are these 3 things that you should really focus on? Okay, these 3 things to focus on and to avoid transgression are: know whence you came, or know where you come from; whither you walk, or whither you go, or where are you going; and before whom you will ultimately give judgment and an accounting, as it were. Okay, very interesting. All right, so let's go back. Know whence you came. Where'd you come from? Where are you going? And who are you currently standing? Or actually, no, before whom will you ultimately, eventually give judgment and basically be judged, a consideration. Really fascinating. This really fits in, at least the structure of 3 things really fits in so far of what we've, for the most part, have seen throughout the first 2 chapters of Avot, a tripartite statement. What's really fascinating is he's not just content to tell you these 3 things, he then goes and explains them. So here we go. Whence you came, where'd you come from? From a putrid drop. Whither are you going? Where are you going? You're going to a place of dust, of worms, of maggots. And before whom you stand? And then before whom will you stand to ultimately give judgment and be reckoned into consideration? Before the King of all before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. Okay, wow. This is not, I don't know what you were expecting, definitely not what I would have been expecting. So, I would have expected the first 2, where'd you come from, where are you going? We're talking about where we came from in life. What circumstances were you born into? How were you raised? What did you do? Where are you going? Oh, where am I going? Well, gee, I have these plans. I have these aspirations in my life. This is what I would like to do. And then, you have the 3rd piece of it, which is before who will you give, who will you give testimony or judgment? Okay, so that's an interesting way of putting into perspective those first 2. But he takes it in a very different direction in his explanation. His very different direction is to talk about, and certainly in the first 2, is to talk about these very base, it's not about you as a person or as a personality. No, he talks about you as just simply another human, not only just a human being, but a living being. Just as a living being, you came from a drop, you're going to be dust and ashes. Nothing. I think the point of these first 2 is to really put us in our place and provide some humility to us. We ultimately, it's tough. Really what a Kavi ben Mahalel is saying, it's interesting because for me, in what I would have perceived, these are interesting ways to think about who we are, what we want to be, but that doesn't always necessarily prevent us from transgressing. What Kavi ben Mahalalel is advocating is to say, when you consider yourself, first, certainly for his first 2 of you came from a putrid drop, you're going to be dust and ashes. I think for him, what prevents one from transgressing is that humility, that we are just not even human beings, just simply merely living beings. So who are we? Of course, that could give rise to someone else to say, okay, so I'm just another living being. Let me just go and transgress. But the interesting part, the corrective of that is his 3rd piece of ultimately we will all stand before the King of Kings, before the King of the Kings of the Kings. It's a very heightened language. The King of Kings, King of Kings of Kings, and of that we will ultimately have to stand before the Holy One, blessed be He. That I think is the key piece of his 3 aspects here of ultimately what we do while we're here on this earth, we do have to consider how to answer for who we are, what we've done in front of the King of all, King of Kings. So, thank you so much for listening to this very first text in the third chapter, and I hope you come along for the ride. All right, thank you so much for watching. What we've done in front of the King of all, King of Kings. So,
all right.
Thank you so much for listening to this very first text in the third chapter.
And that takes us to Sefer HaMitzvahs of the Rambam.
Along for the ride. All right, thank you so much for watching. What we've done in front of the King of all,
computer again.
Of Kings.
We'll do a reboot after the show. That ought to
Thank you so much for.
All right.
No, it's not impossible that Rebbe did say.
Rabbi
Just study Rambam each and every day. I'll never
Baruch Hashem, it is
my daily.
We'll do a reboot.
Baruch Hashem, it is day number 92 of our daily study of Rambam Sefer HaMitzvahs, and in our 3 chapters a day of Mishnah Torah, we are still in Hilchos Yisrei B'Yeh, specifically chapters 15, 16, and 17. These are laws of forbidden intimate relationships, and so that's what we have, just like we've had for the past several days. Negative commandments, all prohibitions of specific, off-limits, intimate relationships. Let's do that. Negative commandment 52, forbidden prohibition against a Jew that's marrying just a past several days. Negative commandment, all 53 specific. This is going to require a little bit of relationship. This is a prohibition against marrying. Prohibition against someone from the nations of Ammon and Moav. Ammon and Moav are nations which are actually related to each other. They both are from Lot. Lot was the brother of Sodom. He and his 2 daughters escaped the destruction of Sodom, and they had incestuous relations, and they gave birth to the progenitors of these 2 nations, Ammon and Moav. So, when he and his 2 daughters, why is it prohibited to have to marry someone from Ammon and Moav? Those are non-Jews. You just told me it's prohibited to marry a non-Jew. So isn't that redundant? No, what we're saying is, even after someone from Ammon and Moav, Ammon or Moav become Jewish through halachic conversion, it is forbidden to marry that person. Interestingly, even after the whole discussion about the lineage of King David, David Melech, because he's descended from Rus, or Ruth, was from Moav. She was a Moabite. Interestingly, the prohibition is against marrying about male converts. King David, Ammon, and David Melech. Now you're going to ask, descended from Rus. Well, what happened to these people? Who do they marry? So they can marry other converts from Ammon and Moav, or any other converts. As long as they are still from a known lineage of being from Ammon and Moav, however, they cannot marry a born Jew. They marry that. Negative commandment 55, not to reject an Egyptian. What does that mean? As long as they are still from a known lineage. In contrast to what we just learned about the converts from Ammon and Moav, this is talking about a convert from Egypt. I don't mean geographical Egypt. I mean someone who's from the biblical nation of Mitzrayim, meaning we just learned about who is descended from the biblical Mitzrayim, the actual people who were the inhabitants of biblical Mitzrayim, from the biblical nation of Mitzrayim. People today who is descended from biblical Mitzrayim. There is a prohibition against rejecting an Egyptian convert from marrying a born Jew after 3 generations, as opposed to Ammon and Moav, where Ammon and Moav, as long as they have that status of having that lineage, they don't marry a born Jew, but an Egyptian convert after 3 generations is able to marry, as opposed to Ammon and Moav. Negative commandment 54, very similar, not to reject, as long as they have that status of having that lineage from Edom, which is the nation that is Egyptian convert. After 3 generations, is able to marry. And this is similar to the previous prohibition. It's talking about convert from Edom, and in the 3rd generation, he is allowed to marry a born Jew. By the way, who is a famous convert from Edom? It's talking about convert from Edom, and the 3rd generation from Edom, he is the one who had the merit to prophesy about the downfall of Edom. It's actually the Haftorah for convert from Edom. Okay, negative commandment 354, the prohibition against marrying a mamzer. People translate that as bastard, but that is not a great translation because the English term has a different meaning. A mamzer means somebody who's born from any of these forbidden relationships that we've been mentioning, all these incestuous relationships, or a relationship with a married woman. That's what a mamzer is. So a mamzer cannot marry a born Jew. Can marry a convert. Of these forbidden relationships that we've been mentioning, all these negative commandment 360, or a relationship with a married woman. That's what a mamzer is. Prohibition against a castrated man not to marry a Jewish woman. And negative commandment 361, prohibition against castration, against castrating a male. Interestingly, this also applies to animals. One's not allowed to castrate a male animal. Those are our mitzvahs for today. We'll see you again, God willing, tomorrow. Interestingly, this also applies.
We're moving along in the list of relationships forbidden by the Torah, but whereas in the past few days we've discussed specific women, now we move on to general categories of people which the Jews are not allowed to marry. Negative mitzvah 52 is the prohibition to marry non-Jews. Negative mitzvah 53 is that there are certain nations that even after they convert, we're not allowed to marry them. And these are Ammon and Moab. If males of Ammon and Moab convert, a Jewish woman is not allowed to marry them. Negative mitzvah 55 and 54 is that when it comes to the Egyptians and the descendants of Esav, those males, when they convert, we're not allowed to avoid marrying them. In other words, we're allowed to, and we should, marry them in case a proper suggestion comes up. Negative mitzvah 354 is that a mamzer, any child born from a union forbidden by the Torah, may not marry a Jewish woman. Negative mitzvah 360, a male whose reproductive organs have been damaged in a way that he will not be able to have children may not marry a regular Jewish woman. And negative mitzvah 361 is the prohibition upon us not to damage the reproductive organs of a male, both human and animal, in a way that will cause them to no longer be able to have children.
All right. Moving on to study the Holy Temple in Jerusalem.
In a way that will cause them to no longer be able to have children.
All right. Moving on to study the Holy Temple in Jerusalem.
In a way that caused them to no longer be able to have children.
Moving on to study the Holy Temple in Jerusalem.
In a way that caused them to no longer be able to have children.
All right. Moving on to study the Holy Temple in Jerusalem.
In a way that caused them to no longer be able
Welcome
to
to
have
the
children.
13th class on the structure and details of the second Beis HaMikdash. In the previous classes, we learned about the Hakhel, and in this class, we're going to continue learning about the Hakhel. In the class right before this one, we learned about the measurements of the Hakhel from the north to the south, or from the south to the north. And in this class, we're going to learn about the measurements of the Hakhel from the east to the west. So starting with the doorway, which is the same width as the wall. of the ulam. Right before this, so the width of the measurements of the Hakhel from, which was the same width to the south, the eastern wall of the ulam. This class was 5 amos wide. Then we move on to the ulam itself to the west. The ulam was 11 amos wide. Then we have the doorway to the kodesh. The width of the doorway to the kodesh was 6 amos. Then we have the kodesh itself. The kodesh was 40 amos, 5 amos. Then between the kodesh and the kodesh kadashim, there were 2 curtains between them, and the curtains were 1 amo apart. This was called the amatraxin. So that was 6 amo. Then we have the kodesh was 20 amos long. Then we have in series of 4 walls and 3 spaces between them. The curtains 1 wall amo apart, 2 walls, 3 walls, 4 walls, and then we have 3 spaces. Then we have 3, and these spaces, just like the spaces along from the north to the south, then we have ta'im. So let's do the measurements in these areas. This wall was 2 walls, 1 amma thick, 4 walls, and then we have 3 spaces. Then this was a space that was 4 amos wide. Like we said, it's called the ta'im. Then we have another wall that measures 1 amma thick. Then we have another space that was 6 amos wide. Then we have another wall that was 1 amma thick. Then we have a space that was 3 amos wide, and finally we have another wall that was 1 amma thick, and all of this totals 100 amos. As you can see here, the breakdown, 5 amos for the wall, then 11 for the ulam, and 6 for the doorway. That totals 22 amos wide. Then we have 40 for the kodesh, 1 for the amatrax, and 20 for the kodesh HaKadoshim. That equals 61, 61 and 22 is 83, so we need another 17. So we have a wall, and a wall. That's each an amma. That's 4. We need another 13. We have 13 with this ta. That's 4. This ta, that's 6, which is 10. And this ta, which is 3. So we need that in this class. So we have a wall, and a wall. That's each an amma. That's 4. We need another 13.
Mashiach. Today marks the anniversary of the Arizal's passing, and in these generations, it's an obligation to reveal the secrets of the Torah, the famous saying that he said. Rabbi Yitzchak Lurie, often referred to as the Arizal HaChai, the living Ari, who taught and spread Torah secrets known as the well of living water. By learning these teachings, as developed in Chassidut, a person becomes so permeated with Torah that it affects his physical brain and his physical body. Through learning and teaching this wisdom, we will merit the joy of the final redemption. We find a hint to this in the Ari's name, Yitzchak, which means to laugh. This laughter foreshadows the redemption. As it says in the Psalms, then our mouths will be filled with laughter. And we've got a delicious Shmuel 3 for you today. Let me just pop it in over here. Hold on 1 second. Yes. Let's see. No, I've got it. I knew I had it. Hold on. I will find it. Meanwhile, listen to this.
Moshe is ready to come now. It is only from our part to do something additional in the realm of goodness and kindness.
Today is a very special day, my.
In today's HaYom, the Rebbe teaches us about the humility.
Today is a very special day, my dear friends. Today is Today is the yahrzeit, the Hilula, the anniversary of the passing of the Arizal, the holy Ari, a massive rabbi who is buried in Sfas. God willing, I'll be able to visit his resting place today. He revealed some of the deepest secrets of Kabbalah. His secrets are the basis that the vast majority of the world follows to get a depth and an understanding and a platform of the deep Kabbalah. This person, Arizal, is a massive tzaddik beyond description and is a special day to connect to Hashem. There's a special light shining today. God bless you all. May we experience the revelation of Mashiach immediately. In a platform of the deep Kabbalah. This person, Arizal, is a massive tzaddik beyond description and is a special day to connect to Hashem. There's a special light shining today. God bless you all. May we experience the revelation of Mashiach immediately. A platform of the deep.
Masbia.org. In Rockland County, Tomchei Shabbos. In Lakewood, Tomchei. In Chicago, the Breakfast with Elli.live/Chicago Food Bank. Achiezer.org, there to help you in times of need. They're available 24/7, as is Hatzalah.
The two most important things inside the human body are the heart and the brain. So in a serious emergency like a cardiac arrest, a person will die very quickly.
There to help you in times of need. All right, Hatzalah EMS with their new Global Assist app.
The two most important things inside the human body are the heart.
Put it on your home screen. Miss Askim, in times of bereavement, Miss Askim is there to help you out. And Just One Shabbos, an organization dedicated to bringing our youth back to the beauty of keeping Shabbat. There's nothing better than that. I wish we could have Shabbos all the time. Hate crime. See a hate crime in progress. God forbid, you should call 911. And please go out, and when you're out, wear a mask. It's very important. Okay?
Mask, wear a mask. Is this really much to ask? Tie some fabric round your face.
Your boosters, and then we can bring some heaven down to earth with the wisdom. Came on stage with a script in your hand. Script tells you, the hero of the story, bringing light into places of darkness, repairing that which is broken, healing that which is fallen ill, creating beauty from scattered fragments of everyday life. Your soul is tied to that script. Without it, you have no reason to be here. Because you were conceived within that context, born to fill a role. And should you fail to perform according to the script, what then? Well, then you must write your own script, one that can heal even that which you yourself have broken. A script that can get the story back on track, but this time to a labor of love that won't be alone. And your creator who conceived you and conceived this entire plan, what will he think of the new script you composed? He'll laugh in delight, exclaiming, "Look at my child." She has script. As any great author will tell you, they love it when somebody improvises to improve what they have done. A good one will tell you that. Not to say that writers who make you stick to the script as written aren't good. But we see from this that Hashem is flexible. You want to talk about it more? Come to me on Clubhouse, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Telegram, Twitter, WhatsApp, or theactorsrabbi.com.
Baruch
Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesroinan al kol ma sheborasa lachayos boem nefesh kol chai boruch chai ha'olamim rabois v'chesroinan al kol ma sheborasa lachayos boem nefesh kol chai boruch chai ha'olamim rabois v'chesroinan al kol ma
It is a pleasure to have you as my sponsors. You're thanking my Patreon. Really, really important. You have up to today, go to patreon.com/rabbi or breakfast well live /tip jar. You can contribute to that as my because of our sins. We were exiled from our land. Today's rabbi. All right, listen to it and enjoy it. Have a good week. May all the blessings of Hashem come your way. May you get everything that you need and a little bit of what you want as well. On my English birthday, as well as yesterday, my Hebrew birthday, I wish you only the best and all the brachas, and everything good should come your way. All you have to do is open the door just a little bit. Have a great and glorious day. Be the reason someone smiles. In the words of Rabbi Vaeschanan, have affection for a fellow. Hashem will have affection for you. Do kindness for a fellow. Hashem will do a kindness for you. Draw a fellow close, and Hashem will draw you close to him. Upnei umipnei chata enu. Enjoy, and I will talk to you tomorrow, God willing. Thank you for all the birthday wishes that I've gotten from everybody. It really means a lot to me. Bye-bye.
Usrachem Aseinu Oy 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 V'yein Anachnu Yecholim Yecholim Asos Choy V'yeinu B'veis B'chirasecha Hashem Elokeinu Velekei Avoseinu Melech Melech Rachamon Oishitoshu Usirachem Oleinu Usirachem Usrachem